The purpose of this podcast is to educate and inform. It is no substitute for professional care by your doctor or your qualified healthcare professional. Never disregard or delay professional medical advice because of something you've heard on this podcast or in any linked material. Guests who speak on this podcast express their own opinions, experience, and conclusions. Dr. Shirley neither endorses nor opposes any particular opinion discussed on this podcast. The views expressed on this podcast have no relation to those of any academic, hospital, practice, institution, or other entity with which Dr. Shirley may be affiliated.
Welcome to Forever Fab, the podcast on fashion, the art of living, and all things beauty. This podcast is curated by Dr. Shirley Madhere, MD, as the definitive source of holistic wellness through beauty.
Hey everyone, it's Dr. Shirley. Welcome to 15 Minutes of Fab, a segment of the Forever Fab podcast where I review products, services, experiences, and frankly, whatever, in 15 minutes or less. If the full-length podcast is a couture dress, for example, then 15 Minutes of Fab is like a button-down French cuff white shirt paired with leather leggings. If you don't have time to tune into the full-length podcast, then check out 15 Minutes of Fab, just a small dose. Some have considered it truth and beauty or plastic surgery secrets or as a nerdy or academic take on wellness and beauty with a dash of fashion. Consider it what you may. My aim is to engage you as a credible and authoritative voice in most, if not all aspects of beauty and wellness with a dash of fashion. That includes products, wellness services, technologies, innovations, new scientific research, and plastic surgery. As the founder of Holistic Plastic Surgery, my approach to beauty is through a lens of wellness that's grounded in science, backed by medical study and research, strengthened by my clinical experience, and bolstered by my surgical training with the use of principles and techniques of plastic surgery. And then there's my love of fashion. Of course, I feel uniquely qualified to talk with you about beauty, wellness, aesthetics, and plastic surgery, as well as products and services within those spaces, not only because of my extensive, and may I add, expensive training and expansive background, but also because I'm one of you. Many of the human issues around aging and being a fierce fab person, as well as an agent for positive change, I live these too, and I try. You're not alone. So together we can help the world become a more beautiful, forever fab place. So if you'll have me and give me at least 15 minutes of your time, let's get at it. In this new year, I've decided that it will be one of expansion and discovery. So I'll explore all sorts of topics, near and possibly far-fetched, while still focusing on the topics that make the Forever Fab podcast, well, fabulous, namely fashion, the art of living well or wellness, and beauty. As part of my philosophy of holistic plastic surgery, which I created well over probably now 15 years ago, where I believe that beauty emanates from within, wellness plays an integral role in my practice. And this goes for many aspects of life that help you to live in grace and beauty, including nutrition, exercise, products, services, technologies, mind, body, spirit, and science. The title of today's episode is My Holistic Spring Routine. Spring is among us, and it's known to be a time of renewal and fresh beginnings. For some people, it represents a new awakening and a time for transformation. In this week's episode of 15 Minutes of Fab on the Forever Fab podcast, I'll let you in on how I prepare for the spring season. In nature, Twinkle.com identifies that spring is the season when trees, plants, and flowers start to bud, grow, and bloom, and there's often more rain showers and sunlight compared to the cold winter. As the season is a time of change, renewal, and also transformation, I believe that our bodies and mindsets should also adapt to those changes. As a holistic approach and a perspective is fundamental to my practice of beauty and wellness, and in fact, it's integral to my practice of plastic surgery, Here are some of the ways that I adapt to the spring months. First, let's keep in mind Dr. Shirley's Fab 5 Rules of Beauty. I think they're fabulous, so they bear repeating. Number 1, good nutrition. That's the first rule of beauty. The second rule of beauty is adequate daily hydration. Number 3, consistent, restful sleep. Number 4, frequent and effective stress management. And number 5, the all-encompassing mind, body, and soul nourishment and protection. So in keeping with these Fab 5 rules, here's what I do in 5 areas of my life. Skin. Now let's remember what our skin does for us, right? What is the function of skin? In a previous episode of 15 Minutes of Fab, I reviewed that the primary functions of skin are pretty well summarized in an article by hsc.gov in the UK, and I'll list them accordingly. So number 1, the skin provides a protective barrier against mechanical, thermal, and physical injury as well as hazardous substances. Number 2, the skin prevents loss of moisture, what is also called transepidermal water loss, or TEWL. Number 3, the skin reduces harmful effects of UV or ultraviolet radiation from the sun. Number 4, the skin acts as a sensory organ to detect temperature and touch. Number 5, the skin helps to regulate temperature. Number 6, the skin serves as an immune organ to detect and combat infections, foreign bodies, invaders, etc. Number 7, the skin is involved in the production of the essential vitamin D. Number 8, the skin provides color. And that's that list from a very resourceful list from hsc.gov.uk. It's important for us to protect and nourish the skin so that it retains its integrity in helping to nourish and protect us, right? It's like reciprocity, quid pro quo. You do for me, I do for you. So one of the things that I do as the season changes to spring is to modify the facial products that I use to those that are lighter in consistency. So for example, during the winter, I use balms and creams and, layer on the thick stuff, the oils. But in spring, I switch to lotions rather than the balms. I also reduce the layering. All right, so in winter, I'll put on the serum, then I'll put on the treatment thing, then I'll put on the cream, and then I'll dab on some oil. And then finally, if it's daytime and sunny, I'll put on sunscreen. So in the spring, I reduce the layering to only apply 1 to 2 products instead of like 4 or 5. And the springtime, I'm also consistent with sunscreen, obviously, since spring brings more sun. That's my skin. Spring step in the spring for better skin in the spring. I'm waxing on and on. Okay, next, sleep. In the spring, I naturally find myself awake earlier. And even though I try to do my best to follow my sleep chronotype and fall asleep at a certain time consistently every night, that doesn't always work out. So I pay attention and honor how my body and my mind feel. And I go to sleep as close to, let's say, 11 as possible. And I try to wake up consistently after those, 8 hours of restful sleep, consistently at the same time in the morning. But frankly, as long as I'm getting adequate restful sleep and I wake up in the morning feeling well rested and nourished and ready to go, and for me, that may mean 7 hours or 7.5 hours rather than the full 8, then I just go with my flow. So I've noticed that my sleep patterns do change in different seasons. And for me, for spring and summer, I just wake up earlier. And it could just be my natural biorhythms and melatonin levels syncing with nature and the light. It's a beautiful thing. Okay, the next area of my life where things change up a bit in spring is exercise. Admittedly, winter is a time of relative and maybe even serious hibernation for me. I do not like extreme cold, so I tend to minimize my goings out in the winter. In the winter, I will not likely leave my house and go to the gym. I just won't. Thankfully, the hybrid situation and virtual personal training still is around, so I take advantage of that. But as soon as the temperatures rise and the air just changes, the light changes, it's warmer, it's sunnier. I spend as much time outdoors as possible, and I ramp up my physical activity to take advantage of the longer daylight hours. So it may be that I have a touch of seasonal affect, or SAD, right? Seasonal affective disorder it's called. I like to perhaps modify that to seasonal affective disruption. Because my energy definitely increases in the spring and the summer, starts to taper off in the fall, and it's just like flat in the winter. So for me, I very much relish and look forward to spring and the light and the warmth and the heat and the sun. It amps me up and energizes me. So I'm able to do a little bit more physical activity, thank goodness. Next area of my life where things noticeably change in the spring, nutrition. I try my best to eat fruits and vegetables that are in season, and I love a good farmer's market. So I stop by and stock up whenever I can. In spring, the meals that I eat are also less hearty, and they're generally lighter in consistency. I have a lot of salads. I may do light soups and consommes, right? The protein and the veggies, that's like a formula for me. Proteins and veggies, that tends to pretty much stay there. I try to reduce carbs because they make me feel heavy, but whatever. I do like some rice and some pasta, so there you have it. Adequate hydration remains essential, right? So I keep the goal of drinking 1.5 to 2 liters of pure water a day. And in the spring, I may add natural organic fruit juices, lemonades, high water content fruit sort of thing. So that's how my nutrition, changes a bit. The next area of my life where things are definitely disrupted in the spring, home, domicile, where I live, my crib, all that. Spring cleaning is not a task I enjoy. It just isn't. Although I consider myself a really good organizer, I just don't actually like the process of cleaning up to organize. But I do believe that a good closet clean out and reorganization, it's healthy. And some people even believe, and I do believe, I think I'm one of those people. Some people even believe that if you clean up and throw out what no longer serves you, you're actually making room to attract more opportunities in your life. Now, if that's not motivation to clean up, I don't know what is. Well, I guess another motivation is that you can shop to replace things, but that's really not the point. You're cleaning up to sort of accumulate less over time, hopefully. So spring cleaning, I do it. And what I no longer use, need, want, or what no longer fits in most recent cases may find a home elsewhere with either a charity, a resale site, such as my new fave Dora Maar, or family members who wear my size. In general, I do love giving. It makes me feel good. And the sight of a clean, organized closet with more room for abundance and opportunities and joy and love is a fabulous thing. So those are just some of the things that I conjure or how I conjure up spring renewal and transformation in 5 areas of my life. How do you usher in the spring season? Share with me and let me know how you do spring, and use the hashtag #MySpringThing. This concludes this episode of 15 Minutes of Fab. As always, stay beautiful and forever fabulous, inside and out. As always, if you love this episode of the Forever Fab podcast, please share it and subscribe to the feed. Listen to past episodes or check out who's coming up next on foreverfabpodcast.com. If you enjoy listening to the Forever Fab podcast and you want more, get more audio and visuals with a membership through Patreon. Choose the gold, platinum, or diamond tier for premium added content, special co-hosts, lifestyle videos, branded merchandise, and maybe even private access to my clubhouse by visiting patreon.com/foreverfab. If you're a founder or you represent a beauty brand and you want to be featured on an episode of the Forever Fab podcast segment of 15 Minutes of Fab, send me some stuff. Visit foreverfabpodcast.com and fill out the contact form. For general holistic beauty tips or to set up an appointment with me to discuss your personalized options for leveling up your beauty, visit elementsandgraces.com and sign up for my newsletter or just give us a call. And for an online e-consultation on time, anytime, and on your time, visit clicklift.com for your wellness, plastic surgery, beauty, and wellness questions on the go. That's click-lift.com. It's time for the Elevated House Call. Jet Set Beauty RX offers beauty on-call services near your home or other domicile, delivering beauty in the privacy of a medically equipped mobile aesthetics unit. Reserve your appointment at jetsetbeautyrx.com. Thank you for listening to this week's Forever Fab podcast episode. Until next time, stay beautiful and fabulous, inside and out.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Forever Fab, the podcast on fashion, the art of living, and all things beauty, curated by Dr. Shirley Madhere, MD. Live beautifully and help make the world a more beautiful place.